Hi, thanks for tuning into the video. Before we get started, I wanted to invite you over to my personal website at toddbrandon.com. There you can find out more about me, and you can even contact me through the website. And now, on to the video. Hi everybody, it's Todd Brandon, and in the last video of this series, we built out our query to pull back contacts by vendor ID. So I'm going to clear out that vendor ID criteria for now. We're going to start building some forms. So the first thing we want to do is build our main form, and this form is going to have a combo box to allow us to select from the available vendors. And then it'll have a button that will allow us to select that vendor, and that button will open up a second form, which will show us vendor detail. So let's get started on the main form. So we'll go to the Create tab, we'll go to Form Design, and then let's close that box, and then I'll come down here where the grid is until I get a double-sided arrow, and I'll just carry this out or bring this out to 12. The next thing I'm going to do is let me bring in from the control section of the design tab, I'm just going to bring in a blank rectangle. And so I'll kind of start there. This isn't like a cake recipe. So if you're following along, just do what you want. I'm just kind of doing what I usually do. And so I want to get this up in the corner flush. So I'm going to use, with that rectangle highlighted in orange, I'm going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to go up and over one. I'm going to bring this, you know what? Actually, I'll bring this up about halfway. And with that highlighted, I'm going to come over here to the property sheet and tools. You can either do it that way or you can right click on that orange highlight and you can come down here to properties. That'll open up our property sheet. And I want to go to the Format tab. And there's this little AZ with a down arrow. And this will allow us to sort the properties in ascending order alphabetically. This is a long list, so I don't understand why they don't do that by default, honestly. But nevertheless, I want to go to back color. And I want the color on this to be sort of a, not quite white, a little bit darker than white, and that gray. And then within this box, now I'm going to insert a label, and I'm going to bring that right about there. Again, I'm just eyeballing it, and this label, I'm going to go ahead and put vendor database. And now I want to change the formatting a little bit. So one thing to note, if you've not worked with forms much, if you click in this background rectangle, you cannot directly click into any element that's within that rectangle directly. I'm clicking profusely here, and it's not working for me. It just continues to keep that background rectangle highlighted. You need to click out of it into the grid here, then hover over the element you want to highlight before you click, and now you can get there. So let's change the formatting just a little bit here. I want to change my font. I like to use a font called Segoe UI. So we'll do that, and I'll change my font size to, I don't know, like 26. Yeah, that looks about right. And then I actually want to change the forecolor, the font color. So we'll go to forecolor. And I want it to be this dark blue. Oh, and I also want to change, I don't want that border around it, so I can change my border color up here, and I just want to match that background, which was this off-white by about 5%. All right, so that's a good start. Now I want to make a lower section that's actually going to have our combo box, and I actually want to make that a little bit thinner. But again, this is all personal preference. You do what you want to do. There is nothing about the form design here that's going to change the functionality of anything. So now what I want to do is bring in another rectangle real quick. All right, so we'll drag and drop that, just making sure I drag it over to the far right edge. Let's fix that one. All right. And then let's come back over here. Make sure I highlight that. Up with the arrow once and left to make those flush. And now my background color on this one will be this dark blue. Let's make sure I go over here and check this. Now that I moved that. All right. So that's what I'm looking for. Now the next thing I want to do is another rectangle real quick. And again, this is just design. So we'll do this. Something like that. Let's see, my border color, I would like for it to be similar to this background color here and what the font colors are going to be. And that's about right. So now I want to bring in a combo box, which is this little guy here. Click on that. We'll bring this out somewhere around there. And so we get this combo box wizard. So we'll go ahead with this. I want a combo box to get the values from another table. I do want it to get the values from our vendor table. So this will work. I'll click next. Make sure I have the vendor table selected. We'll click next again. And now I want vendor name. So I'll find that in available fields and I'll pull it over to selected fields. Then I'll click next again. I do want it to be ascending. So I'll use vendor name. Click next. This is our preview. And then bring that out a little bit, click next, and then I'll name this, or not name, but I want to change my label. So notice this label over here, it says Combo 4. I'm going to change this to Find Vendor. So we'll click Finish, see Find Vendor over here. So now what I want to do, this is actually too tall. I'm going to bring that up about like that. Then I want to get over here and I want to move the label. So I don't want it to be on the left. So these little gray squares in the upper left-hand corner will allow you to grab something and pull it over. Make sure the label is the only thing highlighted. Sometimes it will highlight both and you'll just be moving both around. You'll never get this thing where you want it. I want it to be above the field. And I am going to change the formatting on this guy because I don't want a border. So I'm going to select that again. I'm going to go over here to Format in the property sheet. Border color needs to be that same dark blue. The fore color needs to be this light, this just off-white, whatever. And then I need to make sure I change we need to make our, in fact, I want to change the font in both that and the combo box. So with the label highlighted, I'm going to press Shift and click on the combo box as well. And I can come over here and change this, and it'll change both. All right, so we got the font we want, and then I like that. I might bring this combo box down just a tad. I forgot. I've got to I'll bring that down, and then I'll change this a little bit. All right. Okay, so let's look at this. We've got our label. This is, go to the All tab, and we'll go to Name. We'll find the name property. And that just says Find Vendor Label. I'll just change it to LBL Find Vendor. It's the naming convention that I use. More importantly, we need to select the combo box. And we need to find the name property for the combo box and make sure we change that. And for combo box, my naming convention that I use, and a lot of people that I've worked with, it'd be CBO underscore whatever you want to name it. And so this is actually going to be very important. So remember in the previous video, we built out the query that's going to be contacts by vendor. And remember, we tested it by putting in a criteria. And that criteria was the vendor ID. We will need to use this vendor name value, or the value from this vendor name combo box, to actually get the proper vendor ID when we put a button in here that says select vendor, and it will take us to a new form. So make sure you name it a name that you'll remember, or you can come back to, because we're going to actually need that in some of our code. So we've got that set. Let's put a button in here real quick. Bring that out to about there. And we don't need our command button wizard. We're going to cancel that. And with that highlighted, I can change some of the properties, like the caption needs to be select vendor. Actually, I'm just going to make select. I think it's pretty obvious what we're trying to do there. I don't have to put select vendor. I'll save a little real estate, and I'm going to come down to the find the name property, and we're going to name this CMD for command _ select vendor. So that's set to go. Now we'll wire that up once we get a form, the vendor detail form created, and we'll do that in the next video. One more thing, just kind of tidy this up a little bit. Try to, I don't know, sort of center that. So let's take a quick look. Actually, let's name this form by clicking on save. It'll be FRM _ main. All right, so now we see a form here in our navigation pane, and let's right click and go to form view, and that's what it looks like. So if we click on this, notice all of our vendors are listed there because we linked that to the vendor table, the vendor name field in the vendor table. And in fact, if we start typing, it will actually bring in a name, vendor name for us. So let's say you open the form and maybe you've got 300 fields of vendor names you don't want to go through, even though they're alphabetized. You could just start typing something, and it's going to bring in whatever it has based on the letters you start typing. So that's pretty cool. So the select button doesn't quite work yet. We've got to build out the vendor detail form to have something to open. So we'll do that in the next video. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.